Welcome to the BrightWord Books Podcast. BrightWord is a leading platform for diverse storytelling, where voices from all backgrounds can share their unique narratives and connect with readers from around the world. Follow our regular podcast updates, where we strive to foster a literary community that celebrates creativity, inclusivity, and the transformative power of literature.
Welcome to the BrightWord Books Podcast, where we bring you inspiring stories from authors who shine a light through their words. In today's episode, we are honored to welcome back Eduardo Advincula for his third and final appearance on the show. Eduardo is the author of King Jesus Christ's Nursing Assistant, My Life Story as a Caregiver. It's a heartfelt memoir that reflects his journey as a certified nursing assistant during the COVID-19 pandemic. His story is one of faith, resilience, and compassion. It's a tribute to the unsung heroes in healthcare who serve with both skill and spirit. Join us as Eduardo shares the lessons, challenges, and inspirations behind his calling, and how his Filipino roots and deep faith shaped his path as a caregiver and servant of Christ. So, Mr. Ed Advincula, this is your third and final appearance on the podcast. Looking back on your journey since publishing the book, how has life changed for you, both personally and spiritually?
First and foremost, I would like to greet you happy good morning, Robert, and to my listeners and the readers. Thank you so much for those who purchased my book. Well, Robert, my life has changed so much indescribably, if I may put it that way. It has also dramatically changed me so significantly in such a way that after the publication of my book, that after on December 5th, 2024, that was last year, on Amazon, that a treacherous medical disease called heart attack almost ended my life on March 31st of this year while working in the same hospital, at Kaiser Permanente Hospital in San Leandro. And that really prompted me to write another book as a sequel or continuation to what I went through. With this being said, I have been all the more have become very prayerful to God Almighty every given moment of every day, whether I am working in the hospital, on my days off, or driving on the freeway, or visiting my 85-year-old elderly mother in the skilled nursing facility in New York City at the Masonic Homes of California, until I go to bed, until I wake up the following morning. As God allows it, I always pray. It's been 7 months now since my major heart attack, and I'm still here talking to you and doing this third and final podcast interview. And I find it very amazing that God, our divine creator, has allowed me to survive it. Gratitude to my King Jesus Christ is truly beyond words can explain or describe. I'm just so grateful to him.
Wonderful. So you're living an amazing life, doing those important things, and expressing yourself in this book. So over time, how have your reflections on your experiences as a caregiver evolved since first writing King Jesus Christ Nursing Assistant?
You know, Robert, having been working for the last 21 years in the hospital as a certified nursing assistant, my reflections on my experiences as a caregiver have been solidly strengthened by so much meditation and thought patterns or mindset. Indeed, caregiving to me is a very fulfilling one, although it is never easy, to be honest. Because with God's help, and only with God's help, I try to give my best care to my patients and even praying with them if they request me to. I always find myself in a very humbling situation that I get to take care of my patients to the best that I can, regardless of who they are or where they come from, regardless of their nationalities, regardless of their titles before and after their names, regardless of their stations in life. whether they're poor or rich. That humbled me all the more.
Very nice. They call those principles, right? And you know what you're all about. And so, since this is the third podcast, this is where we focus a lot on what those readers have to say. And through all the reader feedback and interviews you've done, what new lessons or realizations have stood out to you the most?
You know, Robert, for me, what stood out the most was the fact that my life story in my book and what I went through during the COVID season, plus my recent heart attack while working, became so powerful to my readers, and that I am so glad that my life story has blessed them so much. Their feedbacks and reactions to my interviews have galvanized my resolve as a caregiver to keep on moving forward and give my best in my line of work in the healthcare industry. And as long as I'm able to do so, even when I'm retired from this profession, I intend to continue doing caregiving.
Isn't that so nice that you say, I'm even more energized, excited than when I started? I want to do even more. There's not enough time left. So, is there anything that you now see differently about your time as a frontline worker during the pandemic? Is there something that maybe hindsight helped clarify?
Oh, yes. In hindsight, Robert, as far as my time as a frontliner during the pandemic is or was concerned, I will put it this way. The saying that goes, life is short, life is gold. I felt it in the sense that before my very eyes, I've seen so many people dying during the COVID season. Young and old patients were taken down to our hospital morgue. Many were taken by ambulances to the funeral parlors. And with me saying this, what I'm simply conveying is that during COVID, exhaustion, exasperation, tiredness, and sadness have been attached to my time as a frontliner. I thought I would never survive it. I thought that was the end of the world. But now, having surpassed those trials, I can always declare that God is still in control of human history.
Very nice. Very cool. And you hear about that a lot, right? In times of struggle, stress, you would hope that you come out of it stronger. And how does that happen? Well, by having your belief, your faith, your greater power. And how do you continue to live out your calling as King Jesus Christ nursing assistant in your current caregiving work or daily life?
Well, before leaving the house all the way to work, I start my day by praying to Him, my King Jesus Christ. I always ask God to make me a blessing to the next set of my patients that I will take care of for that day. There are times I go the extra mile of helping my other fellow nursing assistants and even nurses, registered nurses, if they need help with their own patients. And in my daily life, on my days off in particular, when I do some laundry or doing some grocery shopping, I would see some elderly or disabled people along the way when I'm driving on the freeway or meeting them in the mall or in the grocery store. I make it a point to say a prayer silently for them. Even though we don't know each other, I would utter a simple prayer of protection for them as they move on as well. Whether we get to talk to each other or not, that's what I basically do.
Very nice. Well, you provide a wonderful service. You've helped many people, and you often speak about faith as a source of strength. How do you keep that faith alive in moments where you feel tired or discouraged?
I will, and I can never deny the fact that there are moments I feel tired or discouraged. I do. I'm still human with emotions. When tiredness or discouragement tends to eat me up or is creeping in my emotional state, Robert, for a while and try my best to relax. and pray to God. Sometimes I will watch and pray. I will watch and pray and watch the videos I made and posted on Facebook with me and my mother eating in the skilled nursing facility. That moment, Robert, that moment of watching my mother with me and I see her happily eating with me during dinner time, that terminates my discouragement and exhaustion. Or sometimes I will listen to my own gospel song because part of my ministry in the church is singing, and I will be posting that on Facebook. And I will see myself singing some gospel music, and that kind of relieves me of the pain that I have, or the discouragement, or the tiredness that I do experience once in a while.
Yeah, this is a great message that it's probably natural if you're feeling bad or tired to just kind of fall into these depressed states. But hey, we're human beings, we're conscious, we're sentient. We can choose to say, let me look up those happy memories. Let me dial up the gospel. Let me look at pictures of me and mom at the caregiving facility. We're in control, right? We can set ourselves up for success as far as managing our emotions, but still, many caregivers face emotional exhaustion today. So, what spiritual or practical advice would you give these caregivers to maintain purpose and peace?
Well, indeed, countless numbers of caregivers today are confronted with so much exhaustion since the since in the first place, caregiving is never easy. Caregiving, just like in any type of profession, is a journey. Caregivers, including myself, will always be confronted with deep attachments or connections with the people we give care to. There will likewise be the presence of challenges that can be insurmountable or massive. To maintain peace and purpose, my advice to my fellow caregivers would be to set aside a time to have your private devotion or meditation with God. And never forget to pray to Him sincerely. An act of gratitude works, so apply in life your sincere gratefulness over little blessings in spite of some difficulties. Sometimes I would go to the motion of writing down my thoughts and feelings about my encounters for that day. I keep a journal. I keep journaling the sad and happy moments that took place in my life as a caregiver that given day. And this is how I was able to write my book, King Jesus Christ, Nursing Assistant, my life story as a caregiver.
Very amazing. So you wrote down those raw materials from everything that you've learned and what's helped you. And you say prayer and gratitude, especially because it is so tempting to just read the words and just do the rote memorization and, be like, oh, here's this or that phrase of scripture. But hey, working on yourself, are you in gratitude? Do you need to get there? Once you're there, how far can you grow it? And we can definitely learn a lot from you, Pastor Ed. And your story has inspired many to see caregiving as a ministry. Do you hope to use your platform to advocate for CNAs or improve how society values their role?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, one of my platforms is my church, where I was ordained in. We have a number of caregivers working on one-on-one with patients, while some of them also work in the nursing facilities. When I'm given an opportunity to preach on a Sunday morning, I always interject the subject of caregiving. And I say to our congregation that giving care to the sickly, to the helpless, to the defenseless is a ministry equated with godliness. It is something that we have to be proud of as our role in the society because not everyone can handle this job of a caregiver. And another platform that I can readily share with my viewers, with my readers, is that last October 14th, my book has now been converted into a movie, and I was the lead role. I had a contract with an independent movie producer, and she sent me a plane ticket to go to LA in one of the studios over there and shot my film. And it's going to be shown hopefully by next year by God's grace. And I pray that that'll really be serving as an instrument for other caregivers to not get discouraged, in caregiving Though caregiving may not be as for others, it may be a low job, but to me, it is not. Because at the end of the day, those people in the higher ups, those people that are rich, they'll be needing a caregiver to take care of them.
Yes. If we're lucky, if we have the privilege of getting old, then we will need help eventually. And so it's good for those who can provide the caregiving to step up. And if it's their calling, to get mentored in a way through you yourself being proud, and then they can be proud. And it's a wonderful ripple effect, isn't it? Paying it forward. Everyone benefits from that. So speaking about those future caregivers, if you had the chance to mentor younger up and coming caregivers, what key message or value would you want those young caregivers to carry into their own work?
Well, Robert, my simple message to the younger caregivers is to show sincere love and commitment to their chosen profession as caregivers. You see, once that sincere love and commitment are truly manifested in caregiving, your joy and happiness as a caregiver will come out naturally because you know deep inside your heart you are making a big and positive difference in the lives of those who are unable to take care of themselves.
It's important work, isn't it? Well, whenever we get to this point in this podcast series and we kind of get to the end, talking to an author, we're like, okay, what's next, right? And you have your movie coming out soon, but we love to just think about the future and build anticipation. So speaking to that, do you have plans to continue writing perhaps a sequel, devotional, or a reflection on caregiving beyond the pandemic years?
Oh, yeah. Just like my response to the first question, after my heart attack, that really prompted me to have my decision and desire to write a second sequel, a second book related to my first book. It was March 31st, 2025. After that major heart attack, will always be my day of reckoning. And I will continue writing books as long as I can by God's grace.
I love it. So you continue to live life and you continue to have messages, and then you get the feedback and it encourages you and helps others, and it's a wonderful great momentum. Good things leading to more good things. So what has been the most meaningful feedback you've received from a reader or listener since sharing your story with the world?
Robert, many of my friends, coworkers, relatives, fellow church members said one thing, and I will never forget that. Even my own pastor, they said, Pastor Ed, God is not done with you yet. And this is the most meaningful feedback I have ever received from them, and which is true. It's been 7 months now since I had my heart attack, a major heart attack. And my doctor said, not too many people would survive what you had survived, because that was a major heart attack that hit your coronary artery. And that led me to think a lot about my life. Not only did I survive the COVID pandemic, but that most trying period of having a major heart attack, Robert, facing that near-death experience has all the more solidified my belief in the existence of my King Jesus Christ, and that my life story as a caregiver still continues. I believe God has not put a period in my life yet. The chapters of my life keep moving, and I enjoy it, living every minute of every day that God provides me to.
That's beautiful. We can learn a lot from you, and there's still more work to be done. So, how does it feel knowing that your personal struggles and faith journey have touched the hearts of people across different backgrounds and professions?
Now, my personal struggles and faith journey have become a milestone in my life. I am overwhelmingly filled with gratitude to those who have already read my book, watched my first two podcast interviews, and have fully understood and felt my personal struggles, my faith journey. Everything, Robert, that I have gone through as a caregiver, as a pastor, as a former Philippine military special agent, intelligence officer, I believe every human being has chapters in their life's destiny. And one of them is my destiny here in the caregiving profession. And I'm proud of it.
I can tell, and I'm proud of you for doing this. And it's a helpful message. And, learning is so great. And I know that if I'm really into a book or a movie, I go when I look on like the IMDb, the Wikipedia, the message boards, the YouTubes, I look to find out more about it. And hopefully that's what's happening here, right? If someone is either they checked out the book first, maybe they're watching the podcast or vice versa, or heck, maybe in the future, they'll see the movie and then check out these podcasts, who knows what. But in general, we're hoping that people kind of digest a mix of this, right? There's the podcast, there's the book, there's this in different forms. But if you could summarize your message, Pastor Ed, if you could summarize it to all caregivers in one powerful statement, what would that statement be?
Empathy, Robert. Empathy is one powerful word that I would like to summarize my message to all my fellow caregivers, to my readers, and to my listeners. Empathy, it is through empathy that, as caregivers, we can readily manifest our true and genuine character to comprehend what the other person or patient feels. And through empathy, Robert, we can show to our patients our active listening to their concerns mindfully. And in that given moment, so crucial, we can establish various connectivity that can bring dynamic positive lessons or positive thinking in the first place. It's all about being empathetic, Robert. That counts the most.
And how would you explain empathy? Like if someone was like, well, I've heard that word, but like, what does Pastor Ed have to say about it? Would you say that's like imagining yourself as them or for them perspective, or like, how would you define empathy?
I would define it simply just like putting myself in their situation. And this is how I always advise my other fellow caregivers that be thankful because we are the ones giving care to those patients in that room. We are not the ones in that room needing some care.
Right.
And also have to think of the fact that most of our patients, and maybe some of them, may not get the liberty to go home anymore. Our
Right.
work is only about 8 hours to 6 hours if we want to do overtime. But we get to go home. We get the liberty to still enjoy life. But unfortunately for our patients who are suffering, they may not be able to go home anymore. And by the time we come back, they might be gone. So try to
Right.
put yourself in their situation, how they feel, what they're thinking of, and try to be very patient in understanding their condition. That will lead you to a big road of more understanding and I would say more opportunities to gain more respect from those who you care a lot.
You're giving us so much to think about here, Pastor Ed. There's gratitude and happiness, and that life is short and precious, and don't sweat the small stuff. So many things. So, looking back at everything you've experienced from your roots in the Philippines to your service in healthcare, what do you consider to be your greatest blessing?
I want to be completely and outwardly candid or honest, Robert, to everyone. It is in the caregiving profession that I have found absolute fulfillment, making this as my career. Back in the Philippines, being an intelligence officer, a special agent for the Philippine military, I was trained. Oh, it was also actually a very rewarding career for me. But in my line of work in the intelligence service, I was advised and trained to detach from my emotions or feeling of kindness to my targets, to my subjects, simply called enemies of the state, because that will compromise my mission. So I had to have that so much focus on infiltrating the enemy, setting aside empathy or compassion, just like what I said, so as not to compromise the intelligence operations or missions I was having back then. And but in caregiving, I have the joy and freedom to be empathetic, compassionate, and kind. Nobody could tell me you cannot be kind to this. I have to be because that's my job as a caregiver. You can't stop me from showing compassion. You can't stop me from being empathetic because that's part of my line of work now as a caregiver. You know, my late father, his name was a colonel in the Philippine Constabulary, which became the Philippine National Police, and he was the best friend of our former president, who was also dead now, former President Fidel V. Ramos. They were the best of friends. My father was an intelligence officer, and so was former President Fidel V. Ramos. My father worked hand in hand with the U.S. government through the United States Embassy in Manila, the capital of the Philippines. He worked with all the different attaches and embassy officials, such as the Army attaches, the U.S. Army attaches, the FBI, the NCIS, the consular officers, and the CIA. My father died of colon cancer in 1997, but before he died, a few years before that, I was also doing intelligence work from another camp in the Philippines. He introduced me to his CIA officers who were his handlers. And they, after my dad died, they became my handlers also in the Philippines. They trained me a lot. They indoctrinated me a lot. They educated me a lot. And part of that was really to always remind me, they always reminded me to focus on it, not to compromise it with their emotions. And that happened actually. But after that, after my intelligence work and everything else, when I migrated to the US, there was this really intense feeling for me to do the caregiving because there was one moment in the Philippines where I was doing some intelligence work in the heart of Manila, driving there, and I saw across the street was the Philippine General Hospital, which I mentioned in my previous podcast, and I saw a lot of patients being unloaded from the ambulances. That struck me so much, Robert, and I carried that emotion at home. And I thought about the brother, the sister, the son, the daughters on the gurney, crying, and the relatives begging the doctors and the nurses to care for their relatives. That struck me so much to the point that when I got to the US, I said, I want to be a caregiver. I want to be a caregiver. I want to show this some compassion, empathy, kindness, and love. Lo and behold, for 21 years now, I've been doing this profession.
Nice. Passion, empathy, kindness, and love. And you've lived an amazing life, it sounds like, and you've learned a lot to pass on to us, and there's more to be done. So finally, Mr. Advincula, as we conclude this 3-part podcast series, what final message of faith, hope, or gratitude would you like to leave with our listeners?
Robert, first of all, I would like to bestow my absolute thanks to BrightWord Books, the podcast and company. From the bottom of my heart, my utmost gratitude to you guys. Second, to my listeners and readers of my book, King Jesus Christ, Nursing Assistant, My Life Story as a Caregiver, I have a few words for you to ponder upon. One, caregiving as a profession or vocation is a wide and vast territory not everyone can walk on. It should not only be considered as a job in itself, but as a ministry, where there is always the presence of compassion, kindness, and commitment sincerely attached to it. As I conclude my third and final podcast interview, may your faith in God become strong as ever. May your hope become the radiance for brightness. May your gratitude become your essence, your soul, and character as you embrace caregiving, being a noble profession in the eyes of King Jesus Christ. In the eyes of King Jesus Christ, Robert, in the eyes of King Jesus Christ. Thank you so much to every one of you, guys.
And thank you, Pastor Ed. You're wonderful. And speaking with you today has really just elevated my mood, and it's hope that it's done something similar to the listeners and watchers. And we want to thank you, listeners and watchers, for joining us on the BrightWord Books Podcast. It's been a true privilege having Eduardo Advincula with us once again, sharing his reflections from King Jesus Christ's Nursing Assistant, My Life Story as a Caregiver. Through his words, we're reminded that caregiving is not just a profession, it's a ministry of love, strength, and faith. And we wish Eduardo all the best in his continuing journey, and we thank him for letting us be part of his story through this podcast series. And if you would like to learn more about his book, you can find King Jesus Christ's Nursing Assistant, available now on Amazon and other major book retailers. And until next time, keep reading, keep believing, and keep shining your light, only here on the BrightWord Books Podcast.
You've been listening to the BrightWord Books Podcast, home of the literary community that celebrates creativity, inclusivity, and the transformative power of literature. Don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss future episodes. Until next time, stay informed and stay engaged.